Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
I'm Mike Booth.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
5-star Blues complete the double over Crawley to make it 2 wins in a row and reignite the promotion push. We reflect on United's victory of the longest trip of the season before previewing this weekend's clash with FA Cup giantkillers Grimsby Town. Yes, big win last weekend. Tough tie coming up this weekend though, isn't it, guys? It's a bit of a conundrum really, because Grimsby an interesting side, as we'll discuss later in the preview. But how are you both feeling? Yeah, pretty happy after that win?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, it's especially after their NFT shenanigans and their video about our fans being cum brains and all the rest of it earlier in the season. It's quite nice to get one over on them.
Yeah, it's not been a great season for Crawley, I think it's fair to say. I don't think anyone's particularly disappointed about that at the moment, but there you go. Plenty to pack in this week, so we'll get straight into it. First up, we need to tell you about our sponsors and also where you can find the podcast and also how to get in contact with us. We'd like to say a big thank you to the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch for once again sponsoring the podcast this season. The London branch is open to all Carlisle United fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips as well as arranging many social events, supporters games and fundraising for the club. This season they'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section. You can find out more about the London branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on all good podcast apps, whether it's Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts. Basically, search for the Brunton Bugle, click subscribe, and then when a new episode comes out, you'll get a little notification to tell you to download it and listen to it at your leisure. Also, if there's an option to review on any of those apps, please do so. If you can give us a 5-star review, that would be really lovely. It's a great way for us to get the message out about the podcast, and so more people can learn about it, and we can spread the word even more. You can also find us on social media, at Brunton Bugle, on Instagram and Twitter. If you go onto Facebook and search for the Brunton Bugle and click like as well, you can follow our page. We're also on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group and also on the Buzz Back message board, the new message board that's replaced the Cumbrians.net. And also, if you want to drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Okay, right, time for the news section first, and just a couple of little bits in here. I mean, the first one's one that we missed, actually. Well, we didn't miss, it happened after we recorded 2 weeks ago, but then somehow missed it last week, basically. So it's basically the news that Paul Huntington has triggered an extension in his contract, hasn't he, Dan?
Yeah, when he signed, there was whispers that he was on sort of appearance related. I'm assuming that number is around the 25 mark, given we've played 30 games and he's only missed a couple. Yeah. So experienced head at the back. You know, you can't complain.
Yes, obviously Simo confirmed this in one of his pre-game press conferences that basically Paul will be tied down now till the summer of 2024. Interesting revelation in there though, Mike, wasn't there? That actually there's another trigger in there for next season. So if he hits another target in terms of appearances next season, he gets extended another year to 2025.
Yeah, and I think regardless of what league we're playing in next season, I think he could certainly do a job. He might sort of, if he's to extend it next year into the following year, he might sort of be playing a bit less, but he's obviously someone who's really good to have around the place and a good professional.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, that he's had such a positive impact. And yes, I know some people have picked up occasionally. He has those little moments, shall we say, in games. Obviously the Harrogate one that cost us the points there. But for what he actually brings, those slight mistakes occasionally are worth it, aren't they, really? In terms
I think you said last week that he's our second best player this season on WhoScored.com.
He is, to be fair, actually. Yeah, that's a really fair point.
I think because it's all statistics based, I think it's because of his aerial challenges. He very rarely loses an aerial challenge, does he? So.
Yeah, it's one area we were so dominant this season, aren't we? I can't think of many teams where they've had a big lad or anything up front where the big lad has won much of the ball. I mean, even looking back at that Wimbledon game the other week where Morgan Feeney was beating their lad who had a good 2 or 3 inches on him to pretty much every single header, wasn't he? Harry Pell, that was when he was beating, wasn't it? To every single header. So, It goes to show. Right, well, there's just one more little bit to cover in this, I think. And it's not so much a sort of news thing, but it's interesting that the DCMS fan-led review white paper was published recently. Dan, obviously from a curious viewpoint, you'll have an interesting, probably a few thoughts on this. But generally, as fans, what's our thoughts on it? I've not had a chance to look at it too in depth, but it's stronger than I expected. I thought it would be watered down by this stage, but it looks like it's what we were hoping for. Much stronger regulation to stop the kind of shenanigans that have happened at places like Derby County in recent seasons, and obviously what happened to Bury as well. And I suppose that's the positive to look at, and potentially more money trickling down to the lower leagues.
Yeah, initial reaction is it's potentially good news. As always, the devil will be in the detail.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been announced it's going to happen. What actually prevails over time will determine whether it is as good as we hope it is, or it's a bit wishy-washy. But no, it's the game is probably out of control, isn't it? With money and the sums involved at the Premier League and Europe and whatnot, and it's going to be interesting to see what follows in the next few months when it gets all sort of argued, debated, call it what you wanted,
Yeah. It would certainly be interesting to see what happens with that. One thing I did like that, from what I read from it, is the fact that apparently the Big Six are going to be expected to stump up half the funding towards the annual costs of the regulator, which I thought was quite a lovely bit of justice for them and their behaviour during the whole European Super League saga, isn't it, really? Another interesting thing that came out recently, Mike, I don't know if you saw this, about the EFL's new TV deal. It looks like potentially Sky are probably going to lose it, because normally it seems to have been almost like a formality, hasn't it, in recent seasons, where you just Sky are going to renew their deal every 2 or 3 years and carries on as it is. But apparently BT, which actually won't be BT next season, it'll be TNT Sports.
I was just going to say, I noticed that the other week, they're changing to TNT Sports.
They got taken over by, was it Time Warner, I think, or whatever?
I think it was in the Discovery arm or something,
Yeah, so basically it's not going to be a part of the... I don't know how it'll work in terms of the broadband setup and all that, but we'll find out in the future. But they've shown interest. I think Apple TV potentially have shown interest, and there's a couple of other ones as well that have said they might be interested in bidding. So it's going to be a completely different setup. Potentially every game is up for grabs, rather than the old setup of, Saturday 3pms were sacrosanct. But that's pretty much out the window now, which I think probably is going to be the right way forward. You're fighting against the tide with people who are legally streaming now, aren't you, really? So
yeah, because Sky, obviously they've had the deal for the whole EFL, but it may as well have just been the Championship that they had the deal for, to be honest, because it's rare that they show sort of League 1, League 2 games. And I can see both sides, because there isn't a huge demand for League 2 football from neutrals kind of thing, but I think sometimes just slap on a League 2 game with a sort of, 5:30 kickoff or something, and then have your 8 o'clock game, on a Saturday or something.
You usually find when the international breaks are on, they will maybe delve into League 1, maybe even League 2.
You say that though, but when it's League 1, it'll be Sheffield Wednesday. It'll be Bolton. Do you know what I mean? It's always the same sorts of clubs.
Sheffield, Derby, Bolton, Plymouth, Portsmouth. Those Peterborough. It's always the same 7 or 8 teams, but I know we never get a midweek game on telly, but Carlisle Stockport's got the potential to be one of the biggest games of the season coming up, hasn't it? And
unfortunately, the next international break, our game that weekend is away at Gillingham, and I can't see that being quite as appealing to the TV things. Although, admittedly, in the midweek, we have got Bradford away on the 21st, so possibly you wonder if maybe they'll look at that, maybe if they're looking at some midweek ones then. But probably not, to be honest.
They don't like travelling too far north either, do they? If they can avoid it.
No, they don't tend to, do they? But there you go. So that looks like it's going to be quite an interesting deal, that one, because the reports are it'll be double the previous deal in terms of the money it'll bring in. Now, that's one thing thinking, great, more money coming to EFL clubs. My concern is all you're going to see is wages shoot up. You won't see any benefit for fans in terms of, reduced gate prices and stuff like that. Speaking of which, Swindon Town, another club this season, charging £25 to watch League 2 football. astonishing. About the third or fourth now, I think.
Speaking of that, someone I know was at Hereford the other night. It was £20 there in National League North.
That's astonishing.
You know, I suppose, you know, it's costing clubs more for energy.
Yeah, you can understand that.
And the likes of Hereford in National League North are probably paying several £100 a week to a few players.
Yeah.
Well, I think without wanting to sort of, you know, make people get out the smallest violin in the world, I know that League Two footballers are paid very well, but their wages have kind of been pretty stagnant over the past few years. Like a player that's worth £1,500 a week 10 years ago is probably still on £1,500 a week today.
A fair point, that.
Do you know what I mean? So
obviously,
their wages need to go up, really, because the cost of living is affecting everyone, really.
Yeah, the Championship is where you'll notice the big difference in terms of wages, definitely, in recent seasons. But there you go. Right, I think we've covered that bit. So let's move on to a few minutes on the loan watch. Max Kilsby and Aaron Athletic, and their good form continues apace. Peter Murphy's side picked up a 2-0 win at Albion Rovers. Two late goals in this one, which we'll cover later in the ex-Blue section, won't we, Dan?
Yes.
And Max played the full 90 minutes once again for the Galabankies. They now sit third, with all the teams below them now. I think they've fulfilled their games, and I think only Elgin and Forfar possibly are still to play that potentially could catch up on them. But this weekend they've got a home tie with fourth place Stenhouse Muir. Now that should be a cracking game, that one as well. So all going really well for them. Isn't it? I think at the top, Stirling Albion and Dumbarton have pulled away a bit, haven't they, Dan? I think they're quite clear. So it's basically a battle to finish in the playoffs for Annan at the moment. Lewis Bell and Gretna, they're not having a good time, are they?
No.
It's fair to say. I think they lost 4-0 at home to Civil Service Strollers. Their sixth defeat in a row, and that leaves them third bottom of the Lowland League. Well clear of second bottom Edinburgh University by 18 points, so it tells you how bad Edinburgh University are. No game for them this weekend. Their next fixture is a week on Saturday when they travel to Bowness United. But yeah, not looking great for them. Lewis Bell did play the full 90 minutes in this one again. But I suppose he's getting game time. That's one way of looking at it. But yeah, can't be very enjoyable for him at the moment playing in that team. Sam Fishburn, he got a 15-minute cameo in Morpeth Town's 2-1 win at home against Nantwich Town. This weekend, it's a trip to his former club, Lancaster City. I think Morpeth are fairly clear of the bottom, aren't they? In the Northern Premier League Premier Division they're in these days. So I think they're comfortably clear of the relegation zone at the moment, so they should be okay for mid-table this season. Kai Nugent was involved in a big game there, wasn't he, Dan?
Yeah. Macclesfield were in town at Workington. Macclesfield, who stopped overnight for this game.
That's astonishing. Even we wouldn't stop overnight in Macclesfield away, would we?
And to be fair, who wants to stay overnight in Workington? But, you know...
Excuse me, someone. You're right, but to be fair, even John Walsh was saying on the radio company, Workington Reds commentator was saying, "What did they do this morning? What could they've got up to?"
Well, apparently they were spotted playing pool in the old Rafa club, which is absolutely fantastic. You know,
incredible, that isn't it? What a wonderful story that is. But yeah, unfortunately, the champions elect, the big spenders in that division, Macclesfield, they ran out 1-0 winners in front of 1,600 fans at Borough Park. I mean, that's better than Salford have got for some games this season, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Reds had a player sent off as well, didn't they?
They did. I think late on, Sam Smith was sent off. I think it was a fairly even game. I listened to Danny Granger's post-match interview in this, and he praised his team, saying, "Look, we're playing against full-time players here, and you know, with the budget they've got, they should be top of the league, and they're a good side and whatnot. But we gave them a good account of ourselves, and it looks like Workington are going to finish in the playoff places. They're fairly comfortable there at the moment, so potentially a really good experience for Kai there, possibly as well to play in some playoff games.
I hope Sam Smith isn't worrying about his red card, because he'll have money on his mind, won't he?
Oh dear. Hang on, wait, I've got it somewhere. I forgot about that. Thank you very much. I knew I had that sound effect saved. So this weekend it's another home fixture of the Reds.
Hey.
Go on.
The writing was on the wall when he got the card.
Stop it. You're getting this one for that one. That's awful. Anyway, another home fixture for the Reds this weekend. They face Stoke-based Hanley Town, who make the long trip up to West Cumbria. Finally, just a couple more of the youth team lads. Dan Hill, he's at Cleveland Celtic. 2 games he got in this week for them. 2-2 draw at St Helens last weekend, followed by a midweek 3-1 home defeat to Steeton. They're comfortably bottom of the table in their division. I think they're going down pretty much, which is sad for them. But they've got the home game this weekend against Atherton Laburnum. But let me get this right. Atherton Laburnum Rovers. No need for that. Just call them Atherton Rovers. It's much easier, isn't it? So that's their game this weekend. Another one I spotted actually midweek. Lewis Boyd was in nets for Carlisle City. So I don't know if he's gone back on work experience there. Maybe he was injured and that's why he came
wonder
back.
if he has one of those where if they need to use him, they can type deals.
Yeah, sometimes you do that. Almost like a dual registration, but not really because it's a Football League club and you can't do that with Football League clubs, can you? I don't think so. So that kind of makes sense, I guess. But
off topic, do you know why Atherton Laburnum are so called?
Go on.
Quick Google there. They were originally named Laburnum Rovers after Laburnum playing fields where they played.
Yeah.
When they joined the one of the leagues, Division 2 of the Cheshire County League, they had to change the name as league rules required the name of the town to be included.
Oh, wow.
So they became Atherton Laburnum Rovers.
Well, I apologise to Atherton Laburnum Rovers for disparaging their choice of name. There you go. Right, well, let's get on to the match review section then, guys. Crawley Town 2, Carlisle United 5. Yeah, second time in the space of 4 weeks that United have put 5 goals in the team. I can't remember who the other one was against, can you? Some insignificant team from down the coast, I think. It's interesting. Before this game, I was listening to Radio Cumbria, and James Phillips was quite at pains to sort of make out, Crawley are almost in a little bit of a false position, and they're still a really good side and stuff. And I don't know about you guys, I felt they were over-egging it a little bit. I just think Crawley are very good.
James Phillips and Lumsden both said that they'd take a point, and I was thinking, you've got to take 3 points against these, surely.
Yeah, I get the whole games in hand thing, but they've only got 1 win in the last 9 or something like that, isn't it? So I was a little bit surprised at that. I expected them to be a little bit more confident. I mean, afterwards they were honest and said, "Look, of course we did. We take the 3 points now." But
I think it was more just it's the longest journey, a long time on the bus on a Friday, and that's
true. It's true. I've got to say before we start here, the state of that pitch, absolute disgrace. How
shocking, isn't it?
How are you allowed to be a team in the Football League with a pitch that? I'll tell you what, a lot of non-league clubs around Cumbria would have better pitches than that. Appalling. It was like it's like a sand pit. It was like up at St Andrews or something, wasn't it? It was ridiculous. But yeah, so going into it quite confident, backed by 500 travelling fans, and all turned out good. In terms of the starting 11, there was one little surprise, wasn't there? In that Joel Senior came in for Jack Ellis, because I think the expectation was he had such a good game last week that Jack Ellis would probably be holding down that place for a while now. Obviously, it was revealed after the game as to why he was left out. It was an injury, and Simo wasn't very happy about that. We'll talk about that maybe when we get to the talking points later. But that was the only change. Joel Senior coming in for Jack Ellis. No changes to the bench either. So it's nice to have a little bit of consistency in there, I guess.
To be fair, in his post-match, Simo mentioned, I think we actually had 16 fit outfield players. So there wasn't going to be much change, was there?
It goes to show, doesn't it? Yeah, we're working with what we've got at the moment, just with injuries and whatnot. So there you go. So straight into it. I mean, Crawley started okay. I think they had a couple of chances, but I mean, looking back at them on the highlights, they weren't real chances. There was one for the right back that was sliced straight at Holy, and that was it. And then United got the opener, and centre back crossing in for right wing back to head in at the far post. It's total football, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, I would say that one thing, if you're to be really picky, that we maybe needed to improve on this season was having the wing backs chip in with a couple of goals.
Yeah,
and it seems like Senior could well give us that. But yeah, it was really good football overall. Mellish just causing absolute chaos as he does, and Senior couldn't really miss when he got there, could he?
It's a great cross, isn't it, as well? Because that's one thing with Mellish he probably needs to improve on a little bit. He gets into good positions, and sometimes his crossing's not terrible, but it needs a little bit more height on the cross. It needs to be a little bit more placed rather than just launching in for the sake of it. This was sent with purpose to the far post, wasn't it, Dan? This was trying to pick someone out.
Oh yeah. It was. It wasn't just a hit and hope, was it? It was, it was put across to get someone on the end of it. And like you said, we just mentioned there about Senior coming in, fully justified his selection, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Took his chance, because the easy thing probably to be there would be, I'll stick Whelan in. We've used him in the last game. He came on as a sub for Ellis late on, but no, he stuck with Senior, and yeah, great reward for that. And then 5 minutes later, I think it's fair to say 2 more familiar attacking faces involved in this goal. Senior actually initially got the ball. He intercepted a ball forward and played it into Moxon. Could not have weighted this pass better, could he, Dan, for Patrick?
No, not at all. It was literally on a 5p piece, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a beautiful pass, and you know what? When you look back at it, it's a hell of a finish, because it's a really tight angle, isn't it, Mike? Because if you look at it, it would have been easy to mess that up or hit it straight at the keeper, but he's really picked his spot, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely, and it's quite interesting, because normally you'd see Patrick play on the left of a front two, and obviously he's playing on the right. And I've been a little bit cynical when he's played on the right wing. We've said before that he doesn't seem as effective there. But I think that right striker role, where he's going to have more shots on his right foot, and you've got Owen Moxon playing them balls in behind, I think he could be very, very good. But without wanting to get too technical, that puts Garner on the left. And when Garner's dropping deep and bringing centre-backs with him, that sort of lets the likes of Mellish bomb forward and cause a lot more problems.
It's a good point, that as well. And what I'd say as well, obviously, it's a great finish from angle. He's such a clean finisher, isn't he, Patrick? He strikes the ball really well, really with purpose. I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't wobble all over the place, is it? When it's hit from him. Really, really good strike.
It's good technique, isn't it?
Yeah, really good technique. Well, let's talk about some great dribbling technique from Owen Ricky Villa Moxon. There's a reference for the teenagers there, isn't it? He showed he can score any type of goal, didn't he, Mike? He's got mazy runs, added it to his repertoire now.
Yeah, definitely. And something, again, I was thinking after the Mansfield game, when I was looking for little things to be critical of this season, and the wing-backs not chipping enough goals, is that we hadn't had midfielders score enough goals from inside the box, for me. I think every good team you can think of in football history has had a midfielder chip in with probably 10 goals, sort of getting in the box, getting on the end of things. And Moxon had scored 2 before now, one of which was away at Harrogate, when it was kind of everyone was forward anyway. And then obviously he scored the one at Crewe. But, I mean, this one, he just danced his way through the defence, didn't he? And I think everyone was shouting, shoot, 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 for a good 20 seconds before he actually put it in the net. But, yeah, fantastic goal, and hopefully added a bit more to his value, because he's not going to be here next season. He's just not.
No.
How can you forget his free kick at Hartlepool?
No, I'm saying goals from inside the box. That's what I'm on about.
Right.
Yeah,
and it wasn't a free kick; it was a strike. It was just an open play. It was a good strike, to be fair. It was.
Wasn't it?
But no, it's a fair point. I mean, it's a great run. I mean, is it fair to say, Dan, that it was pretty appalling defending though?
It was a mixture. I think there was a little quote from him that said he didn't kind of know what he was doing himself. He just sort of put his head down, kept running, and managed to pop it in, But no, it was just, the lad's on fire, isn't he? And
but you could argue as well, like I said before, Garner drags defenders out of position, when he comes deep, and that creates space for someone to do that. So
yeah, definitely, absolutely. At this point, it should be noted, Crawley had actually made a substitution not long after this, which tells you how badly they were playing in that sense, but also how much we were just basically getting at them at every chance we could. And obviously they went to a back 4. Didn't do them much good though, because 12 minutes later it was 4-0. Moxon returned to being provider for this goal, sent in a free kick to the far post where Feeney's initial header was fairly well saved by the keeper, but Feeney was basically, Johnny on the Fox. Johnny on the spot, sorry. And,
Johnny on the Fox.
Fox in the box. I get mixed up with Fox in the box and Johnny on the spot there. Johnny on the spot to poke the ball past the keeper and turn things around from that Mansfield game to be the team that was leading 4-0 at half time. And Nice to see him chipping with a few goals as well at the moment, isn't it, really? Because it's one of those things, we're such a strong threat on set pieces, and with players like Mellish, Feeney and Huntington in there, Dan, we really should be getting more goals, shouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. As Mike said, all the good teams have goal-scoring players. I'm just looking at our stats here. We've got Patrick's up to 4 in an injury hit. Moxon's on 5. Callum Guy's got 3. Feeney has 3. Huntington has 2. Mellish has 5. We're starting to see goals getting spread about, and the fact that the likes of Garner and Dennis haven't scored, Gordon, and we've scored 5 is a bloody good sign.
Well, the bad thing is that Mellish one caught me out because he's just crept out of nowhere up into joint second place with our top scorers chart, hasn't he? I just thought, I was like, what? When did? And then I read, he scored 2 against Barrow, didn't he? I completely forgot he'd done that.
I think all of our strikers, though, bar Dennis, have sort of, obviously Garner came in January, as did Gordon, but all of our other strikers have had their fair share of injury problems. So, whereas Mellish, playing pretty much every week, touch wood, it's good that he's managed to get up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Into the second half, if I should mention, actually, Patrick nearly made it 5, didn't he, actually? Well, actually, nearly made it 4 because it was before Feeney's goal, but he had a great chance from a similar-ish position when he hit it across goal, and it was just wide of the post and just far enough forward that Garner couldn't quite get on the end of it as well, wasn't it? And that was a really good opportunity. Into the second half, Crawley were always going to come out a little bit stronger, you'd think, but a little bit frustrating, Mike, to concede this goal early on, especially as it was a bit of a... I don't say people standing watching, but it was kind of one of those goals you think, we could have stopped that, couldn't we?
Yeah, surely. I think, our foot maybe went off the gas a little bit. We were talking the other week about the conspiracy theory that the board don't want to get promoted. Well, I've got a new conspiracy theory this season that basically, so say if every player, of our back 5, or back 6, including the keeper, is on, say, £1,000 clean sheet bonus, right? Simo says to them, right, I'll give you $2,000 if we don't keep a clean sheet to an individual player. And then that saves us a lot of money because the amount of clean sheets that we should have had and we haven't had is just insane this season.
Let me just say, for anyone listening from the club, solicitors listening, it's a joke. That it's not serious. So don't take it seriously. But a frustrating one really, because Moxon switches off on the quick throw in. Initially, Feeney blocks the shot that comes in, but then a sort of a low ball comes across, and Ote stood with no one near him, isn't he? And that's a little bit frustrating, Dan. Maybe there needs to be a little bit more ruthlessness with something like that.
Yeah, slightly annoying, but with the big games coming up, we need to tighten up on these little things. I've no doubt we will. You play the better teams, you tend to hopefully turn in a better performance. But look, at the end of the day, we've gone away, we've scored 5.
Yeah.
We've repaired the goal difference damage pretty much from the Mansfield game, so happy days.
That's the good thing, I suppose, in that sense. And Mellish made it 5, didn't he? Jack Armour's corner from the right. Initially, Huntington gets a great header in that. I wonder if it actually maybe even crossed the line from this one, because it looks like the keeper might be behind the goal, but you can't really tell from that angle. As it is, from the loose ball, Mellish is there and he just about bundles it over the line, and there's a bit of confusion as to whether he'd given it or not, but in the end, it was given, and that made it 5. And then, just frustrating to concede that Telfer goal later on. It's a similar one again, that he was just low ball into the box and he's unmarked to tap it home. And I'm sure Tom Sholey is as annoyed as anyone really with that one, because he's probably looking at it thinking, I've had no chance with either goal, and I've not really done anything wrong, and I've not kept a clean sheet. So frustrating for him. Other than that, I can't find any. Dennis had a chance, didn't he, as well, potentially, after he came on to make it 6, but the keeper made a good save. But nice, easy afternoon, really, all things considered, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When you 4 up at half time, it generally makes the second half a lot easier, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I remember that Mansfield game the other week, and I kind of wish I'd just knocked it off then, because I was thinking I'd just knock this off, and nothing's going to happen here, and the game's over, don't you? Really, especially when you see the performance they put in the first half. They never threatened, really, Crawley. So good all round. In terms of talking points, ruthless performance. That's the key thing that comes out of this, isn't it, really, in terms of, if you look at the barefaced stats, United had half as much of the ball. They only had 6 shots more than Crawley and a worse pass completion. It's about being brave on the ball, though, isn't it?
We did to them what Mansfield did to us, basically.
Yeah.
We were just ruthless with the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you need that. It's a case of having a low pass completion percentage isn't necessarily a bad thing, is it, Dan? Because it maybe shows that actually you're being brave and trying to play those through balls and pick players out rather than, it's easy to play passes across the back three, as we saw with Barrow the other week when we played them, But if you really want to have a go, you've got to be brave with the ball, haven't you, Dan?
Yeah, too right. You don't get goals without having a go, and we're clearly having a go, diagonal balls, through balls. We try it all, charging runs, and we get rewarded for it.
One of my favourite footballing stats of all time is that the year that Leicester won the Premier League, they had the worst pass success rate in the league.
Yeah.
Because it was they were just lumping it to Jamie Vardy over the top. 9 times out of 10, a defender would block it. But that 1 time out of 10, he was clean through on goal and he scored.
Yeah. This goes to show, doesn't it, really? And yeah, the ruthless in front of goal helped as well. Let's talk about Senior's special moment then for him, just over 12 months after he picked up that injury in his, 4th or 5th game for us, I think it was back then. He's got his first goal for the Blues. And yeah, it just goes to show, opportunities are going to pop up occasionally for players. And he's taken it. He probably looked and thought, well, the way Ellis played last week, thought, well, it's probably going to be me waiting for my chance for a little bit now. But as it is, a week later, he's in the starting 11. He shows what he can do. He said this week in his interview, hasn't he, Dan, that he feels like he has more to offer. He feels he's still got to work on his fitness and build that up. He's been very honest about the fact that it's tough, when you come back from injury like that. But he feels like his big, strong attribute as a right wing back is attacking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably a bit of a closing that chapter from the injury, the goal. It's a bit of a milestone, I mean. He's had his layoff, he's come back, he's been in and out, he's still feeling his way back, but coming back in the team due to Ellis's injury and then capping it off with a goal, that's sort of your draw the line moment, right? Let's push on.
It's a first Football League goal as well for him, isn't it? So, it's a really good sort of platform for him to hopefully build on and kick on and have a good career.
Definitely. A mention for Jack Ellis now, because obviously Simo in the post-match interview was not a happy man, was he? I think it's fair to say. So to explain for anyone who's not heard it, essentially Jack Ellis picked up a niggly sort of hamstring injury at the start of last week, but didn't tell the medical staff about it. And it obviously carried on training out maybe 1 or 2 more days that week, and then it got worse. They had to drop out of training on Friday when by that point Simo had already decided on the team and he was going to be in it. So safe to say Simo's not very happy about that and basically said to him, look, you need to be telling us when you've got injuries like this. A bit of a learning curve for him, is it fair to say, Dan?
Yeah, probably. Obviously, we don't know when he first felt the twinge officially, etc. And that. And he's probably thought he knows best. And maybe if he'd said Monday or Tuesday, I just feel slightly that they'd have pulled him out one day and he'd have been all right for the weekend, But you live and learn. He'll have had a bollocking. It'll have been moved on from already, and he goes again when he's fit.
But Simo said as well, with his last injury that he had, that was his first ever injury. Like, he'd never really been injured at youth level or anything. So it's probably a case of him sort of learning his body and learning what... Because a lot of pros, they do play with little niggles here and there. And it's a case of learning what you can play on and what you can't, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it should be noted as well, obviously, he just got back from injury and got himself into the team again. You do wonder if it's one of those things, if he'd maybe been playing for the last 2 months solid and he got that little niggle, he might not have done it the same. He might have gone to them and said, look, I've got a little bit of an issue, but I think I'll be all right for Friday. Am I okay to sit out training, whatever? And they would have given him the treatment he needs. But I think he was worried about keeping his place, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you said it there. I think from his side is that he knew that Senior's chomping at the bit to play, and he needs to keep his place in the team. Otherwise, if Senior comes in and does well, which he has done, Ellis is going to struggle to get back in when he's fit again.
Yeah, Ellis is going to get his chances though. So it's one of those ones. Seniors now got a whole month basically to pin down that place, and as it is, we haven't got a Tuesday night game till Bradford, and this is a chance for him to have a few weeks, 3 Saturdays in a row of building his fitness up again, and hopefully that means he'll be fine for the rest of the season. Because we've got to remember as well, it's only 4 or 5 weeks till Finn back's back as well, and we're going to have 3.
I was just going to say that
but he's going to arrive round about the same time Ellis is back, which must be a frustrating thing for Ellis as well to think. Not only have I picked up an injury, it's 4 weeks and it's going to be around about the time Finn back's back. And if Senior's doing so well by that point, Ellis probably find himself maybe twiddling his thumbs a little bit for the rest of the season. Possibly, he might not be able to get into the squad, so that'll be frustrating for him. But it's exciting to think we've got 3 quality right wing backs for the rest of the season, potentially from the start of next month, isn't it? Just goes
definitely.
to show. Omari Patrick, is he back to his best? He's had a frustrating season, hasn't he, Dan? Really, in terms of been in and out of the squad, and coming back from one injury, doing so well on his comeback game, and then being out again. Considering how well he did when he came back in January last year, we all thought, right, we're going to see the real Omari Patrick next season. He's going to be flying. He's come back an even better player than the one that left us originally to go to Burton. He's had to bide his time, but him and Garner are starting to form a really nice partnership, aren't they?
Yeah, it's interesting how we've got at the moment 4 fit forwards. We thought there might be a bit more interchangeable, but it seems to be Garner and Patrick or Dennis and Gordon, doesn't it? Like for like. But no, Patrick's he's starting to pick the pace up, and for the running, that's going to be brilliant. I
mean, he could have had a hat-trick in this game, to be fair, as well. Do you think that's important, Mike, as well, in terms of the partnership that Dan mentioned there, the fact that it maybe actually helps having two partnerships working with each other to work on the close links and stuff, so that you can drop either into the team when you need to?
Yeah, definitely. And we know that Patrick is a confidence player, really. So I think getting that goal is massive to him. But I mean, we've got to touch on Joe Garner. By all accounts, a lot of people who were there saying that he was man of the match and he didn't even score. But I think Garner doesn't need to score for his confidence. Garner is quite happy to sort of provide goals and cause other teams problems. But yeah, they seem like the sort of go-to strike partnership now, and it's mad that the league's top goal scorer is sitting on the bench.
He's got to wait his time, hasn't he? And like you said about the being man of the match, I thought he was man of the match against Colchester. That's 2 games in a row where he's not scored, but his all-round contribution. You see it even on the highlights clips. He's winning free kicks, he's winning headers, and even for the first goal, that long, great kick forward by Holy, he's there retrieving the ball right on the goal line and playing it back, isn't he? So
it helps Holy's kicking, having Garner to aim for as well, rather
100%.
than Armour.
Yeah, agreed.
That's made a big difference, and he seems to be playing with a smile on his face. You see, even when he's not scoring, he's enjoying other players scoring. He's the elder statesman now, isn't he, in the squad, really? So he seems to be thriving on that role, which is really.
You say he's the elder statesman, but he's still the cheeky 19-year-old that we had last time at the same time.
He's still got a baby face, hasn't he? That's the thing. A little bit more of a beard on him now, but there you go. Set piece for variety. How important has this been, Mike, in terms of mixing things up? Because we saw back in sort of October, November, when Taylor Charters came into the team, it gave us a real extra option, didn't it? Because previously it'd just been Moxon taking them on both sides. He had, from the left an in swinger, from the right an out swinger. Bringing Charters on in his left foot brought us in swingers on both sides, which with the strike, the heading talent we've got makes a big difference. Armour's doing it now. He's been brought in to do it. How much of an impact do you think that's made?
Yeah, well, a few of Armour's corners, even ones that we haven't got goals off, have certainly caused other teams problems. Yeah, it's good. It's good to have that threat because we do have a few big lads. Having them all in the box. I mean, often because Feeney isn't. I think Feeney's only like 5'10". He winds up unmarked, but he's only 5'10". But he's one of our best players in the air. So it's hard for teams to designate who should mark who when we have so many threatening players.
I reckon Feeney's a touch over 6. Not massively, but I think he might be 6'1" because I don't think he's the same height as me. I feel like he's a little bit taller. But the problem is Huntington and Mellish are so tall, he looks smaller and next to them.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, Mellish doesn't even really attack corners, does he? Really, he just sits on the keeper most of the time.
Well, Mellish just gets manhandled by someone else.
Distracts him, doesn't it? It's ridiculous, isn't it? There you go. Any areas you think we can still improve on at the moment, Dan? What do you think?
can we complain? We're the highest scoring team, you know.
Yeah.
We're Carlisle fans, of course we can complain.
Well, yeah, but it's that. But I'd like to see us try a couple of cheeky routines now and again.
Yeah.
You know? Not every game, just chuck one in now and again. I'm a big fan of a training ground routine.
Yeah. It's one of those things we haven't really seen as much, but the thing is, we're so good in terms of set pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard one to do, isn't it? And in terms of sort of general play as well, I think it's just cutting out mistakes that give those soft, because a lot of the goals we conceded lately have been very soft. That's the frustrating thing. It's not like we've been cut apart by brilliant passing players. That's the thing. If that happens, you go, fair enough. You know, they're a good team, but they all feel like avoidable goals ones we conceded. I'd agree with you. That's the only thing I can think of, and it'd be nice to win a few more like direct free kicks and maybe get a couple of those on target, because they've not been great. But I won't comment on Jordan Gibson's free kick taken any longer, because I've done that a few times recently.
Well, I think earlier in the season we were not winning many direct free kicks,
it's true.
And I think that's something that Garner will bring to the team, and already has started bringing to the team.
Yeah, you'd hope so. I think that pretty much sums it up then. Yeah, we're all pretty happy with a 5-2 win. Can't really grumble at all. So let's move on, and we'll go into the second half. We'll preview the Grimsby Town game.
This is John Mellish. You listen to the Brunton Bugle.
And we're into the second half now, where we're going to be looking ahead to this weekend's game against Grimsby Town at Brunton Park. Right, we'll start off with a question of the week first. I've got one for you guys. I've got a couple, actually. I'm going to mix it up, and I have a couple. In a similar style to what you guys have done in previous ones, it's about appearances. First up, I've got a couple of players who've played for both clubs to talk about, and that's Simon Grand and Josh Gowling. Both players have played for Grimsby after they had played for Carlisle. Grand actually left Carlisle to go to Grimsby, joined them on loan, and then went permanently there for a short while. Gowling was a good 4 or 5 years later, I think, after us. Now, what I want you to tell me is, first up, how many games did Josh Gowling play for Carlisle United?
It wasn't very many.
Have we not done this before?
I don't think you've done Gowling before, no. You've done someone else similar, but Josh Gowling, how many games has he played for Carlisle United?
I'll punt.
Something silly like 5. It wasn't many.
Yeah, I'll say like 8.
The answer is 4. 4 league appearances for Carlisle United, so there you go. And secondly, Simon Grand, how many league appearances and goals did he get for the Blues?
Football league appearances?
No, just league. So
Okay.
that includes the conference.
Is that for us?
For us, yes. How many did he get for us?
I'll say 36.
And goals, how many do you reckon?
5.
What are you going for, Dan?
I'll say 40 appearances, 3 goals.
The answer is, you're very close, Mike. 35 appearances and 4 goals.
Oh.
He got in his time for us. So there you go. So that was a nice little question of the week there for you guys. Moving on to the Grimsby Town preview. So first up, we've got Behind Enemy Lines, where we talk to an opposition fan about their club and how things are going on. And this week, I spoke to Alex from the DN35 Podcast. This was recorded on Tuesday night, so before their incredible result against Southampton in the FA Cup. We did joke about that at the start. I did say, here's 2 alternative possible starts here. Commiserations on your defeat, or what an incredible victory you got over Southampton, which we obviously know which one was the right one now. It was a really good chat, this actually. It was longer even than all ones. I think it was a good 22, 23 minutes, something like that. But really interesting to talk about some of the parallels between the two clubs. We talked a lot about their incredible FA Cup run this season. What it's like being in the archetypal mid-table League 2 side this campaign, and a little bit about how Max Crocombe is reviewed by the Mariners faithful. So here's the chat I had with Alex earlier in the week. So yes, we're into the Behind Enemy Lines section here, and we're going to be speaking to Alex from the DN35 Grimsby Town Podcast. I presume DN35 is the postcode.
Yeah, Grimsby aren't important enough to have their own sort of postcode. We have to borrow Doncaster's.
It's mad, that, isn't it? Because you're in a completely different county as well.
Yeah,
That's a thing.
It's hours away. Yeah, it is ridiculous. It's
a mad one, I suppose. But I mean, Barrow is in Cumbria, and they've got an LA postcode, because they still think they're in Lancashire, basically. But that says all you need to know about Barrow. Anyway, Alex, right, let's get into this. Let's talk about Grimsby Town. We'll get this out of the way first, because we've got to make this clear. We're recording this early in the week, so it's before your big cup tie against Southampton. Well over 4,000 tickets sold for a midweek trip to the South Coast. I think that's an unbelievable effort. Really, really good. How much has this cup run helped galvanise the club?
Can I be honest from my side of things? It hasn't felt incredible.
No?
It's weird, isn't it? Like, I was really impressed with my personal opinion is the FA Cup treats us with disrespect. Like, the piece of tin just disrespects our club ever since like the semi-finals in the Second World War. Yeah. If we win it, in 3 games time, I want to do a Sergio Ramos and drive the bus over it. But it's been interesting, and it's kind of been sort of sprinkled a lot around some unimpressive performances. Yeah. So we, even when we used to be a championship club, I mean, most of the time in the League Cup, we used to get you guys for a start, first round.
Oh, I remember you beat us 6-0. I think that was the first time I went to Grimsby, and my lasting memory of it is there's a hell of a lot of dog shit around your ground.
Yeah, there was.
It's stuck in my head for years and years. I've been a few times since and not seen as much, so it's
well,
better.
I'm glad it's improving. It's either that or everyone's eating the dogs for sustenance. But I actually used, there was a game that we played against you guys that I use as reference for sort of how far we've fallen. I think we beat you 3-1, and I can remember we didn't even get out of second gear, and it was the times when you didn't have teams, and you guys were the perennial strugglers in the league.
Yeah, we were.
And you'd be like, oh, well, we'll never be in a mess like Carlisle was back then. And then fast forward.
Comes back to bite you on the arse, stuff like that, doesn't it?
It really does.
That's the way I think the world works, unfortunately, football-wise. So go on.
No, but it has been nice and it's been good. But every draw has been sort of twinged with that slight disappointment that we could have got such a better draw. Like Luton away. Yeah. I mean, there's not many grounds we can go to that are worse than ours, but we've managed it. And then Southampton's great. It's a club we actually haven't played. Only Man United have hidden from us longer, and we haven't played them since I think '78. So it's a new ground for a lot of fans, which is one of the reasons I think we've taken so many, though obviously there's not much to do in Grimsby, so that helps. So it's been good. And today it for the first time felt like, oh yeah, this is looking forward, and some people saying stupid things, me include, 3 games from Europe.
well, you never know. I mean, where you'd have to play your games, I don't know, because I'm guessing your ground wouldn't be up to UEFA standards.
How dare you? Yeah,
I make a presumption here, but
it'd probably be Hull. Would be the first. Yeah. When we were looking at our league performance, we were thinking we're going to be the first club that has to rearrange a home game against Dorking because we've got Besiktas away.
That would be incredible, wouldn't it?
But yeah. It's been good, and it's a nice little buzz around the town, and nice bit of attention. We've sat too much in Wrexham's shadows over the last couple of years, both during the playoffs and in the National League, and during this FA Cup run as well, because it's just of how it's fallen. But it's nice to have had that little bit of attention for everyone. The sponsors make a bit of money and stuff.
Exactly. I mean, we'll move on in a sec. Obviously, I will say the obligatory. Oh, fantastic! What a great cup upset you got for that game, or commiserations, you getting back is probably going to help us. So it could be any of those options. But
yeah, of course.
Got to ask you about Harry the Haddock, because that's been the big scandal for this FA Cup tie, isn't it? Explain that one to our fans, because basically it's about an inflatable fish, and that's all I'm going to leave it at and let you explain it.
It came in from the early 80s. I think we played Wimbledon when they were the crazy gang, and they took thousands of them there. And there's been sort of 4, I think, reiterations of it over the years. It's quite hard actually to organise an inflatable fish to be, built and constructed and sold. But we did that. But Southampton did, the second they worked it out, they went, yeah, no, that's fine, let them in. So all credit to them. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, though, we took them and they just immediately confiscated all of them. So there was 6,000 there that night in the FA Cup, and we must have lost so many brave inflatable fish. But it's not the first time we've had problems with inflatables. Barnet are pretty good with it. A steward sued us, a fan, for hitting him over the head with an inflatable shark.
I remember seeing that. That was just ridiculous, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
Not a big fan of Barnet anyway, because we went there a few years ago. Me and Mike off the pod, and actually Dan as well. And we got to the ground 15 minutes before kickoff, and we didn't get into the ground until 15 minutes after kickoff. Wow! One turnstile open, and there was over 500-600 Carlisle fans there, and they just clearly didn't anticipate that many coming. So yeah, not massive fans of the Hive.
No,
just to put it that way.
No, it could be great, but it's not brilliantly organised.
No, certainly not. Right, let's move on for the FA Cup. Let's talk about the league. You appear to be the archetypal inconsistent mid-table side this season. You've picked up some great results against some decent teams and lost against teams that are struggling near the bottom. I mean, you only have to look at your last few games, really, for that. You've lost against Gillingham and Colchester, with a caveat there that they are two improved sides. But then you've also beaten Northampton and drawn at Leyton Orient. I mean, what's going on this season? Could you just not really find that consistency, I suppose?
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. Leyton Orient, we should have won. We missed a penalty, and we were the better team throughout. But any team that sticks 11 men behind the ball, we're just nonplussed. We're a team that don't have a plan B. We've got two short guys up front that work really hard and can get involved, but they don't have that physical presence that teams like Colchester, Harrogate, and Gillingham have. So when you want to start mixing it and put it in the mixer with 10 minutes to go, we're just all out of ideas, and we're a bit too those games in particular, bit ponderous, not very good. When you've got 11 men behind the ball, we're not quick enough. We don't have the first touch to be able to spread the ball quickly enough to move it from one side to the other, well enough to create an opening. But when we play teams like Northampton and Luton and whoever, if they give us space and they give us the time to have the ball, we're brilliant. And those players, they're almost too good for the position they are, and then they don't have any bully boys around them with the physicality they need to get forward. I think if we had someone like Christian Dennis, then we'd be slightly higher up. We are in a little bit of a false position because we've got a fair few games in hand on most people, but those games run out pretty quickly. And you tend to only move a couple of points up. So we're a work in progress. We came up a season too early, and we haven't found that Matty Langstaff that Notts County have. We need to find one, but no one seems to have a decent striker nowadays. No, we've had 22 players score for us this season, which is the most out of anyone in the Football League. So it goes. They come from everywhere.
Yeah. Interesting. You brought me quite nicely to my next question. I was actually going to say that having won promotion last summer via the National League playoffs, I mean, you bounced back at the first attempt, which against some very strong, well-backed financially sides, Notts County an example, and Chesterfield, and obviously everyone knows Wrexham. But was it always a case of making sure you kept your heads above water this season and out of trouble? Because I'm looking at the table, you could get dragged back into it, but I can't see all those sides below you suddenly going on enough of a run to overhaul you. So you're probably just out of touch of that, maybe, but you're not going to be contending for a playoff place, obviously.
No, and I think that could have been different before Christmas. But it's the few defeats we had after that really sort of paid away. So from sort of late October onwards, we really struggled to get any points on the board. That's changed now, as you imagine, with the January transfer window. We end up all having two teams again, don't we, a season? Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because at Carlisle, we were quite lucky in that all we've done is replace 3 of the loanees and brought in Joe Garner, and we haven't lost any players.
That's
which has actually really helped us massively. I think that goes to show, doesn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the problems we have. Every club down here can be so reliant on loan players that teams seem to be reluctant to give you them for more than 6 months. So then it's you throw the dice up in the air and you see what team you get at the end of it. We'll be okay. I'm looking for 14th this season. We haven't finished above 14th since 2006, which is incredible. So if we can, it sounds such a low target at times, especially for a newly promoted club. But if we can do that, I think it's a nice little sort of monkey off our backs if we can do that, and it also gives the impression for other teams as well. And I worry what players think when they look at us, like you guys used to have in the 90s. Like, are we just perennial strugglers, Grimsby? So I don't really want to go there. So if I've got a choice of them or I've got Bradford, I might not get as much game time at Bradford, but I'm not likely to be either looking for a new club because they've gone down to National League. And I think if we can sort of promote ourselves and show that we're an established League 2 club again, then it looks a bit better for us. 2006
was back when we were both battling at the top of League 2, wasn't it? I think we had some probably good ding-dongs that season. I think we did double over you, but then we had Michael Bridges in our team and we could beat anybody on our day back then. So
do you know what? I still think we're trying to sign Michael Bridges. Him and Ryan Lowe are the two players that every transfer window that used to come round, like, Michael Bridges is interested. And I think even like 5 years ago, it was still a conversation.
Well, our fans still bang on about the idea of him becoming our manager one day as well. He's back in the UK now. He's moved back from Australia, so you never know, maybe one day, but I think we're quite happy with Paul Simpson at the moment, I think it's fair to say. Well, speaking of managers, Paul Hurst, what's the thoughts on him among the fan base? I mean, obviously, I'm guessing he's a bit of a hero for getting you back so quickly, especially with the level of quality you probably had in your squad compared against those other teams in the National League. Is he still the right man for you guys?
It's an interesting one because we've had him for sort of an accumulation of nearly a decade at times. You get to that point where I think it's a long-term relationship that sometimes you can load the dishwasher the wrong way too many times, that people then, the final straw on the camel's back. His criticism is critics would say that he is slow with tactical changes. He's quite stubborn. He doesn't make substitutions quickly and doesn't react to what's happening on the pitch. Those who are very pro him would say he is great at finding rough diamonds and merging them. That whatever you may say about him, he's got us promoted twice. We've also had, this FA Cup run, which is incredible for us. Yeah. So what else do you need? Like we are getting there, and it's all about slow progress, and he's got us back at the first time of asking, so we're probably a little bit ahead of ourselves. But I think there's a little bit of a middle ground there. He could be better, but in all, as long as I know he works hard. He's not Ian Holloway, so he's not, a charlatan pretending to be a football manager. He's an honest, hard-working manager who could probably improve in some aspects. But as long as I'm listening to the radio after the end of the game and he's seen the same game I have, I'm quite happy. Yeah. And that's usually something that I rely on. But if he starts making stuff up or, going, well, this didn't work, it's like, well, no, I didn't see that. He's usually pretty honest with his assessment of games. So I'm quite happy with him.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it, actually. I never really thought about that. When I think about it, when I listen to a Paul Simpson post-match, I sit there and nod along and go, yep, he's been fair there. He doesn't sugarcoat it if we're rubbish. He says, if we're not good enough, we're not good enough. But he's also not going to go in harsh on them all the time. If we have a bad game, he's fair. So yeah, it's a really good way of looking at that. Owners, he had new owners. I think have you had them for just over a year and a half now? I think is it?
Yeah, something like that. I love them. They're amazing. Honest guys. One helped launch lastminute.com and match.com and Skyscanner. The other is a local entrepreneur and businessman who does lots of hedge fund deals and a lot of property deals. But his family is known as the local town butchers. So whenever we just go to these, he's an impressive character. But literally every fans forum is like, when are you bringing the sausages back? And when it's like, I didn't work in the butcher's shop. That was the other side of the family.
He'll get on well with our owner, Andrew Jenkins, who runs Pioneer Food Hall in Cumbria. He's a butcher of 84 years.
There you go. So. Don't do that. Yeah. They'll never stop. But he'll be. It's a great. They're honest guys. They work really hard. They're saying all the right things. They invested. The accounts came out yesterday, and it looks like they've invested 1.5 million since they've come in. And to be honest, it's needed it, which is a shame because they've had to put so much money in just to get us back to probably the same standard you guys have currently. Yeah. And so it's sad they've had to do that. It hasn't helped to improve, but they're looking at building a training facility. The only thing I think where we differ is Blundell Park. Unfortunately, had the ravages of the Taylor report, so it's all seater. It's not like what Carlisle's ground is. So we're quite restricted, and we've got something like 6,000 season ticket holders in an 8,000 stadium. So if you're wanting to take a family of 4 to watch a game, it's pretty hard to get 4 tickets together. And expansion is probably some way down the line, and the talk of a new stadium is mute. And I understand that you don't want to put that on the shoulders of a club. A 25 million stadium for what could be very little in terms of positives from it.
Yeah, no, I think a couple of interesting points there. I mean, the training ground thing, Paul Simpson has been banging on about that with us for quite recently. He's made a point, our training ground's right behind the waterworks end of our thing, but it's the wrong side of the flood barrier. So it floods all the time. So in the winter, you can barely...
Cracking water polo team.
Yeah, you can barely use it in the winter. That's the problem. So we have to train at Gretna and all kinds of places. So.
This is interesting because we're probably two teams cut from the same cloth. Where the constant conversation we have around the team is, well, how do we attract people to Grimsby?
Yeah.
And I assume you probably have the same conversation.
Yep, distance, definitely.
And the conversation goes, well, why don't we just have our training ground in Sheffield or in Leeds and then just do what Barrow do and bring them up?
Yeah.
And the owners were quite clear on it. Said, look, the training ground is more than just the benefit of the players. It's for the benefit of the community. So it's the women's team, it's the youth team, it's the kid teams, it's anything else as well around that, bringing schools in so they can see how professional athletes work and alike. It's more than just that. So I think they're right, but it's an interesting conversation. It'd be wonderful at some point to hear your struggles on how you do. I know you look to north of the border as well at times, but it'd be interesting to see your struggles because it's very hard to sell Grimsby at times.
It's the Scottish thing. You'd think, you'd think we'd exploit it more, but we haven't really down the years, and it's a constant frustration of our fans that we don't. Especially when you see prime example, Nicky Cadden, who's brilliant player for Forest Green Rovers in recent seasons, now playing for Barnsley in League One. He's someone who, we were saying like he passed by us. He was at Livingston or something like that, and he went, or Greenock I think it was, and he went right by us to go all the way down to Forest Green. Why aren't we trying to sign a player like that? And the problem was we got our fingers burnt a few seasons ago when we signed a couple of players from Scotland. One of which, Christy Elliott, did not turn out good at all. He was really poor. He's actually retired now. That's how well his career's gone since. Yeah. There was Jack Iredale, who's at Bolton. So we let him go because Chris Beach didn't fancy him, and turns out actually he is quite a good player, it seems. So that's a hit and miss one. But yeah, the things with the ground as well. As much as our ground's very spacious, it is falling to bits, and that's another thing.
But do you know what? And this is the problem. I've never been, but it's like the amount of times I've gone, I wish I had your home end. I wish we had terrace in. It's
nice. It's good, and I've got a terrace in season ticket, so I love it. But at the same time, I also recognise the fact that the ground doesn't make money on a non-match day. Yeah, and that's a big part of being a lower league club these days. And there's not a massive amount of sort of conference facilities and that kind of thing in Cumbria, so it'd be a brilliant opportunity. So I think it's one of those things. We're looking at the salon clause from Dean Henderson this summer. That's potentially going to wipe out our debt and possibly leave a little bit of money over to
former
build the
Grimsby
training
player, Grimsby Dean Henderson.
Indeed, and Jared Branford as well, who's obviously at Everton on loan at PSV at the moment. Man United, Liverpool sniffing on him, so we could get the thick end of 7 to 10 million in salon clauses this summer, which would be transformational, especially with someone like Paul Simpson at the helm. But I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here. So
you're going into Carlisle wet dream territory there.
Exactly.
Really,
very excited about that kind of thing, but there you go. Right.
With us with our FA Cup.
Yes. Let's talk about your squad then. Who are the key danger men to look out for?
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've got quite a collection of players. So Josh Emmanuel is probably the best... one of the best footballers in League Two. We were so lucky to get him. He used to play for Hull City. Probably the best at the time, was the best right back in the Championship. Came under a fair number of illnesses and conditions and injuries, and so had his contract cancelled at Hull. And we've got him now for 6 months till the end of the season as our player. He will most likely move on to a League One Championship club at the end of it. He is head and shoulders above absolutely everybody. He's quick, he's dynamic, he provided the 2 sumptuous crosses against Northampton, and he shouldn't be here, and that's also a problem because his head is somewhere that our League 2 players are not. And he's a really interesting one, and we haven't had that sort of ability and quality in the team for a long time. John McAtee is brilliant, love him. Yeah. He's on loan from Luton. There are some, and me included, he's not sort of revisited the same form he had last season yet. But he's always worth, he's always creating things and being a spark. Outside of that, Luke Waterfall is always sort of a stoic, strong captain who can will head a bus stop, and is just brilliant at that. And then you've got Gavin Holohan, who obviously can crack a ball in from 30 miles away, and then the last player I'd point out is Harry Clifton, who is our born and bred youngster, Wales under 21 international, works his Patukas off. Really hope he has a terrible game tomorrow, so there's no scouts watching him too closely. He bleeds Grimsby. There's loads of videos of him as a kid, being interviewed at the end of games and stuff. And he's just, he's the player you want and you love. Plays every position. If it was a Championship manager player, every position would be green. Yeah, he's brilliant.
Reminds me very much of Owen Moxon in that sense for us. Because he's Carlisle lad. He left us when he was 16, came back 8 years later. And according to WhoScored.com, he's the best player in League Two this season, having joined us from Annan in the summer, which... That is an example of actually picking up a player from Scotland, having said that we didn't pick any of them now. So we've got the best player in League Two now, and we signed him from Scotland. So there you go. I mean, he will go in the summer for big money. I've zero doubt about that. But
I'm slightly worried that you guys are going to be rolling in it, and even Wrexham are going to be going, hang on, boys.
The problem is we basically need to pay off the debt. That's the main thing. I think Henderson's the most likely to go, but there you go. Quickly before we wrap up, I just want to talk about some of the links in the two teams between the clubs. Max Crocombe, he's your goalkeeper. He was with us for a couple of seasons, I think it was. He was only backup. I don't think he actually played a league game for us. I think he only played in the trophy mostly, possibly in the League Cup. How's he done for you guys?
He's brilliant. He's incredible. He's one of the players I should have really mentioned. We have that Max Verstappen Super Max chant for him, mostly because it winds up the rest of the podcast. They're all big Lewis Hamilton fans. But he's great. He's made some brilliant saves. He's brilliant at collecting the ball. James McEwen, who used to be the long-term stalwart in at the club before that, was an incredible shot stopper, but probably didn't have that as an attribute. And same with his distribution. Max's is brilliant. If we are winning by 1-0, he will go down with cramp after 52 minutes, and he'll keep doing that until he gets booked. And we haven't had that before, and we quite like it. We always like to think of ourselves as some sort of morally superior team that doesn't surround the ref and alike.
Well, I'm sure our fans in the Warwick Road and the youngsters will definitely not give him too much stick for being a former Carlisle player if he did something like that. I'm pretty sure they'll be fair to him. And in our team, I think there's only two, and I might be wrong on this. I think Jamie Devitt had a loan spell, you guys.
Yeah.
He won't feature at the weekend probably because he's...
Is he injured by any chance?
Yeah. It's sad because the first spell he had with us, he was outstanding, like an unbelievable player. Left to go to Blackpool, and Blackpool's manager
just
signed him. No, he left literally 7 days after he signed. Simon Grayson comes in and says, "I'm not going to pick you, so you can go and find a loan club." And he just signed a 2-year deal with them, moving up to like League One level, which was fair enough because we were League Two. He's had a few clubs he's been at since. He was at Barrow. We signed him last season, and the 4 games he played last season, before he got injured for the rest of the season, basically kept us up. We won all 4, and he was outstanding in all 4. Got a new deal, but it's sort of pay as you play with a very basic wage. Yeah. And he's featured as a sub a few times this season, but he's been useful in the games he's played. But for you guys, he was on loan quite a while ago, wasn't it? I think that's
10 years ago now. But again, very similar to what it sounds like for you guys. He came in that season where Luton had been docked 90,000 points and alike, and kept us up. And so he's always one of those that people hark back to as well. So why don't we bring Jamie Devitt in? Because he's literally 90. Yeah, and I have a feeling he'll either retire at the end of the season or he might become a player coach or something like that. Because Simo says he's an unbelievable person to have around the dressing room. He raves about how good a character he is as well, which I think does play quite a big part, which is one of the reasons we're doing so well. And the final one, someone who I know didn't have a great loan spell with you guys, because I interviewed him at the start of the season just after he scored against you guys, and he did say I was getting a bit of stick, and he said, you know what, I wasn't very good there, to be fair. I didn't have a great time there, but I enjoyed my goal the other night. Christian Dennis, your thoughts on him? Yeah, do you know what? That's a shame to hear, because we've never had decent strikers. The last striker that had scored more than 10 goals for us in the league was Wes Thomas way back when. Yeah. And so he didn't do terribly. He was one of those players that come in a short loan spell, had a couple of goals, and then sort of go, hang on, we've just found the greatest player ever. And then, as most loan players do, they sink down to our level, and then don't kick on. There's not too much other than that I really know about him. It's great to see him doing well with you guys. It's in League Two, you're never going to find a striker that is, Swindon's Charlie Austin thing only happens once in a generation. Yeah. And everybody else is either a load of journeymen that you've never heard of or a young guy from National League North. So whatever striker you sign, no one is going to be massively impressed. But the same with like Jamil Matt and the like with that. Like, they weren't amazing for us, but then they get promoted with Forest Green. Yeah. And he's just got to fit.
Yeah, Matt's gone to Walsall now. He's not really done much there, has he? I think he's hasn't scored yet, has he?
No, not at all. And it'll be the same. There'll be so many players we get that, then will go on and have a far better career and will laugh at us on the way back.
Yeah. Like I said, to be fair, I don't think he was so much disparaging of you guys. He was more okay. So I did I think he'd come from Notts County where he was struggling a bit there as well, and I think he was just like, you know what, it just didn't work out, and I think it was just, he was getting some gentle ribbing from the fans, so I think he enjoyed the goal, and he is very much a wind-up merchant from the impression I got from him. Like, he really is a wind-up merchant, but there you go. Good. Alex, I've kept you for quite a while. It's been a really good chat. Let's wrap it up, and let's have your prediction for this game.
Do I do 2? If we beat Southampton, we're going to lose 6-0 because everyone's going to be hungover.
Okay.
And you guys will just walk it around us. If we don't win it, I imagine it'll be a 2-2 draw. Okay. I think it'll be an entertaining one. Okay.
Well, Alex, thanks very much for your time, and all the best for the rest of the season after this weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, big thanks once again to Alex for giving up his time to speak to us. Very generous in terms of his availability. Yeah, we've got a really good chat with him. I'm sure he's probably got a very sore head, probably still listening to this on Friday, having been all the way down to Southampton on Wednesday night. I mean, what an incredible victory for them, Dan. I mean, they're having a great time in the FA Cup this season, aren't they?
I think they're having sort of the ideal season for the first one back, because they're safe. They're in mid-table. They're safe. They're not going to go up. They're not going to go down. To compensate, they're having an incredible cup run, which has unfortunately sent them to the South Coast again. With,
they took incredible numbers down there, though.
Yeah,
4,000 in midweek's a really good effort. Really
and
good
they'll take the same to Brighton as well.
It's Saturday as well. Yeah, so
it's a quarter final. So
yeah, it must have been frustrating for them watching that draw as it started, because it started with Man City at home. There's a chance. Man City away. Sorry, no, didn't get that. Then Man United away. Oh no, didn't get them either. So, but yeah, it's a running joke. Man United's FA Cup draws, isn't it? Though they get a good draw in the FA Cup pretty much every season, don't they? It's very rare they get a poor one. But yeah, so it on to this weekend's game. Referee for the game is Mark Edwards from County Durham. It's his fourth season as an EFL referee. He's taken charge of 19 games so far this season, handing out 60 yellows and no red cards. You know what that means? Last season he handed out 87 yellow and 3 red cards in 29 games. Last United game he took charge of was the 1-0 win over Gillingham at the start of this season, where Jordan Gibson was the only player booked for the Blues that day. Head to head, it's only the 51st meeting between the two sides. I was surprised at this, Dan. I thought we'd have played them a lot more, to be honest.
Grimsby were quite a solid championship club for a number of years.
Yeah, that's the thing. I kind of thought that. I thought, well, maybe when we were sort of up in the first division and second division, they were lower league anyway. And
I think we possibly crossed each other a little bit,
Pretty much, yeah. My distinct memory of Grimsby Town, sorry, I should say the head-to-head stats are, we've won 12, there's been 14 draws and they've won 24, so we're well behind on the head-to-head for this one. My distinct memory of Grimsby Town is the fact that we seem to draw them in the League Cup every season at the end of the 90s, and they battered us every season in the League Cup at the end of the 90s. We lost 6-0 there, possibly, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
That was a pretty desperate one. I think I went to the second one, which was a 3-1 or 2-0 defeat, I think, maybe. And the thing that always stood out to me about Blundell Park, and I did say this on the chat with Alex, is the fact that it was just dog shit everywhere around the ground. It is the UK dog shit capital. I can't understand how Blundell Park is like that, but there seems to be just dog shit everywhere. Not as bad the last time I went, actually. We got a few seasons ago. But yeah, so there you go. Let's talk about their squad and transfers and stuff then, Dan and Mike. Yeah, I mean, looking at the January business, not many departures. Pretty much all the departures that have gone, bar Jordan Maguire-Drew, who's gone to Yeovil Town on a free transfer, were all players' loans ending, weren't they? They let 4 players' loans end, and they haven't lost anyone else. So they've been quite solid in terms of their squad.
Yeah.
And just added basically another 3 loanees in, plus a couple of players. I think Josh Emmanuel's one that they're really excited about. He's come from, it says Rotherham, but I think he's actually come from Hull. And Owen Gallagher, who's come from Crawley Town. What's your thoughts on their squad, Dan? Because I look at it and I think it's actually quite a testament to the job that Paul Hurst has done, because it doesn't look the strongest to me.
It's a proper mix. I mean, there's 1 or 2 solid names, like Luke Waterfall.
Yeah.
He's been around the block. Otis Khan's been around the block. Sean Scannell,
Yeah.
And then you've got a lot of unfamiliar ones, your loanees, etc. a proper little mix, isn't it? That's Stephen Wayne from Sunderland. We were linked with him, weren't we?
Mm. And there's also, I mean, Gavin Houlihan, they signed from Hartlepool United, didn't they?
Yeah,
That always looks a weird one, how Hartlepool let him go now as well, because he was one of their best players, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Strange one that was.
Well, look,
Sean Pitt.
I was just going to say that Evan Corey, I think he was man of the match against Southampton, and he was came through West Ham's academy. Only club he's ever played for is Grimsby. He's played 9 games for Grimsby. You know, and that's one of them signings that you see in the summer and think, oh, he's probably not much, but it's man of the match against Southampton, so...
Oh, that goes to show, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, obviously, Sean Pearson as well. I think he was at Wrexham, wasn't he, for a few years? He certainly enjoyed beating them in the playoffs last season. But yeah, like in terms of, you looked at the transfer business they did in the summer, as you mentioned that. I mean, Niall Maher coming in from Halifax, he's one we were linked with as well, wasn't he? I think I seem to remember. But yeah, I agree with you, Dan. It's a weird mix. It doesn't strike you as like. When I looked at it in summer, I think, if I remember, we said we thought they were going to be solid mid-table, but that was mainly because of Paul Hurst, wasn't it? Because we thought he's such a good manager, he's done such a good job there. I think a lot of other managers going in there would probably struggle with that squad, wouldn't they?
Yeah, there's just nothing that really stands out, you know. But no, they've just done it right this season for me. You know, they've, like I said earlier, they're mid-table, they're safe, they're having a great cup run. You know, they've done it off the back of this cup run. Yeah. They'll probably be able to invest in the squad come next summer, you know. Exactly.
It's the perfect recipe for them, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely.
They came up 1 year ahead of schedule, probably, Mike, you'd say, wouldn't you? They've gone... They probably thought going down, Paul Hurst thinking, I'm going to have to rebuild things here, and with, you know, Notts County, Wrexham and Chesterfield all to compete with at this level. You know, and Stockport, actually, as well. Sorry, I forgot about them. It's going to be tough for us, so we might as well rebuild and put together a decent squad to have a go at the season after. As it was, they had an incredible run, Tristan Abraham's powered run at the end of the season, and got themselves up. So I suppose, Mike, I think what Dan says there is right, isn't it? For them, it's a case of, let's not get ourselves into trouble, let's be solid, and this AFL Cup run is just an incredible bonus on top of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think any team that comes up from the National League at the minute with the quality that's down there absolutely 100% deserves to be in the Football League.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, like you said before, they're having the ideal season. Just consolidate, get a bit of cup money, and then maybe next year, maybe have a go at sort of playoffs or higher.
Yeah. Despite the fact that they're firmly mid-table, they've picked up some really impressive results, especially in recent weeks even. I mean, they've drawn with both Orient and Stevenage, and they've beaten Stockport and Northampton. But on the flip side, Dan, they've lost to Colchester, Grimsby. Sorry, not Grimsby. I've put Grimsby in there. Colchester, Gillingham. Sorry, that's another G term. Colchester, Gillingham, Harrogate, and Hartlepool.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, that's the inconsistency. Is why they are where they are, isn't it?
It'll be interesting to see who they do bring in the summer, because they've got the makings of having a decent season next season if they spend the money wisely.
And they get the crowds as well, don't they? They get 6,000-7,000 most weeks, I think. Yeah. So, you know, it's not like they're a proper football league club, aren't they? It was kind of good to see them come up in the summer in that sense, you know, to have a team like that back. A bit of a pain to get to for us, but, you know, it could be worse, I suppose, in that sense. So, yeah, they're probably going to be happy to be mid-table this season, considering, you know, being promoted a year ahead of schedule. And they do tend to score most games. There's only 8 games that they haven't scored in so far this season. I think there's only 7 that we haven't scored in, so they're similar to us in that sense.
It's got 0-0 written all over it, hasn't it?
Oh, 100%. I'm saying this, you know. But they don't tend to score many goals in games. They don't, you know, like us where we've had 3 or 4 in quite a few games. They don't tend to score lots of goals. That's where they've got issues, I think, in terms of that. We always talk about the last time out. I think everyone knows what happened last time out for them, don't they? They beat Southampton 2-1 thanks to 2 penalties either side of half-time from Gavin Houlihan, with Coletta Carr getting one back on 65. But Southampton did have a goal rightly disallowed by VAR. That must have been an interesting experience for the Grimsby fans, getting to see VAR in live action for the first time. But it sounds like they were quite comfortable. They held on. Max Crocombe was up to some funny antics, wasn't he? I think it's fair to say in terms of getting cramp in the game late on. I mean, any goalkeeper who claims he genuinely has cramp in a game is a liar. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
There's no way a goalkeeper should be getting cramp.
I'm led to believe from reading Twitter that it's not the first time he's done.
Well, no, apparently, as Alex has said to us, apparently he has a habit of doing this round about the 52-minute mark in games. He'll start doing it. He'll start complaining about cramps. So I'm sure our good friends in the Warwick Road and the young lads in there will be happily to remind him of this. And just keep it polite, lads. That's all I'm saying. Semi-polite at the very least.
Well, if we're winning on 52 minutes, it'll be miraculous to see that he doesn't have cramp in this game, most probably.
That'll be the key thing. Crocom's an interesting one, isn't he? Obviously came in as backup keeper for us. Was never really going to get a chance to start because Gillespie was firmly the first choice, wasn't he, Dan? Gone away, gone back and played in Australasia, I suppose you'd say, in Oceania. Back for, was it for Wellington Phoenix he was playing for, possibly? Someone else? Oh, no, it was Brisbane Roar, sorry, wasn't it? He was with Tom Aldred and Macaulay Gillespie. He's come back to the UK to play with Grimsby, and he's firmly established himself as first choice there, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's, he was at Salford as well, wasn't he? For a bit?
Yeah, for a brief while. Well, he got sent off famously, didn't he, for having a piss behind the goal in one game?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
but no fair play to him. He's still only 29. He's
young. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't even realise that. For some reason, I thought when he was with us, he was like 24, 25. So yeah, I'm thinking about it. 26, 17 he was with us. So that would be a good...
Be about then, yeah.
7 years, yes. He was about 2021. Fair play to him, yeah.
He was only young when he was at us, I can remember that much.
Yeah, no,
yeah, 2016, 17, yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. Let's talk about United then. Injury-wise, it's starting to get close to being good, isn't it? I think it's fair to say, Mike. Looking at the thing, I haven't actually put Toby Silva's injury down here. I just realised that. I do apologise. I think I've left it off. Bar that, I mean, and obviously Dickinson's out for 2 months. We know that Josh Dixon returned to full contact training at the end of last week. It'll probably take him a few weeks to get up to speed still, but that's another option added to the squad. Probably not going to be involved, but you never know if we do need him. Ryan Edmondson, as you mentioned, Dan, he's closing in on a return very soon, hopefully. Charter's about 3 weeks away. Devitt is about 1 to 2 weeks, and Barkley will be similar, about a week, and obviously Ellis is 4 weeks and similar with back. Potentially next few weeks it's going to be a real big we've got some big games coming up, haven't we, Dan? There's a real chance, isn't there, to impose ourselves with the squad we've got.
Yeah, definitely. You see, as an opposition player, you look at a bench and you see names like Edmondson, Devitt, Dennis. You're thinking, bloody hell, these lot have got some squad, haven't they?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I was going to say, I feel, Mike, as well, that Edmondson's going to be a massive one coming back, isn't he? I mean, because he gives us a completely different option from the other four forwards, doesn't he, in terms of his height and his presence up there. But he's also got that ability on the ball. Yeah,
definitely. And it wouldn't surprise me if some games we might sort of see Simo do the 4-3-3 that he played last time, where Derek Holmes is kind of in the middle and we had Carl Hawley and Michael Bridges either side banging in goals. Wouldn't surprise me if we see that with Edmondson in the Derek Holmes role.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see a game with Edmondson and Garner up front, because Garner could be the one winning all the flick-ons, while Edmondson, who's got a bit of pace behind him, would be the one going for the through balls. It'd be quite an unusual sight of the little man doing the flick-ons and the big man doing the running off the ball.
Well, I mean, a lot of opposition teams would be sticking their big man on Edmondson, expecting that to be the aerial ball. And a lot of big centre-halves at this level are absolutely slow as a tractor. So... Yeah, Garner wins the flick on Edmondson and behind. I'd quite like to see that.
It'll be interesting. Dan, team selection, stick or twist?
I don't think you can change after a 5-goal away from home, to be quite honest.
And as you mentioned, we've only got 16 outfield players, so there's not much choice in there. You the same, Mike? You stick with what we've got?
Yeah, you've got to, haven't you?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think at the end of the day, even in terms of we've mixed up the strikes a bit this season. I'd stick with them for this one. You maybe look to change it for Swindon, possibly to freshen it up a little bit there, but yeah, definitely for this one, I'd stick with it. Well, let's do match predictions then. Been a bit of a change in the table, hasn't there, Mike?
Yeah, there has. So you're now top on 21 points. Dan's on 20, and then I'm just playing with myself in the sandpit on 14.
Okay, steady. Yeah, it's. I've moved. Who did I get right in terms of goal scorers? Because there was 5 goal scorers in the end, so I went for 3-0. I think I have a feeling I got Moxon.
I think you got Moxon.
And Mellish, maybe.
I think you might have got Patrick, or maybe it was Mellish. I can't remember.
One of the two, but yeah, that's what I got. So no one else got any of us. I don't think it was Patrick.
You'd think we'd actually write these down one week.
No. Mike does
It comes
check.
to something that we had 5 different goal scorers, and me and Dan didn't get any of them right.
Yeah.
Incredible effort that, wasn't it? But there you go. Well, we're going to have to give up on the Dennis thing soon, I think. Anyway, Dan, go on. You can go first. What are you predicting?
3-0 win. I'm going to go for Omari Patrick, Joe Garner, and J.K. Gordon.
Oh, 3 strikers. Go on then. Christian Dennis not scoring as well, which is, that's a first for a while. Mike, what are you going to go for?
I'm going to go for a 3-1 win, and I'm going to go for John Mellish and Omari Patrick and J.K. Gordon off the bench.
Okay, I'm going to go for a 4-1 win. I think Grimsby will have been on the piss all week and a couple of days and rightly enjoying their FA Cup victory over Southampton. So I'm going to go goal scorers. Jack Armour's going to get one to match the one that Senior got last week. Omari Patrick, Owen Moxon with another, and Joe Garner to get the other one. So there you go. That's what I'm going to go with. Right, X-Files section, Dan. There's a little bit to cover this week.
Yeah, goals last weekend. Naki Wells got a penalty for Bristol City. They didn't get one for how many games? Did they get 2 in a row, was it?
480 odd days or something like that, and then now 2 games in a row they got penalties.
2 in a row. Then they had a 1-0 win over Hull.
Yeah.
Macaulay Gillespie scored for Plymouth in a 5-2 defeat at Peterborough. I did think that was a game that could have goals.
I always think Peterborough games are going to have goals. I don't know why, because they always have such good strikers.
They just do, yeah.
It's mad.
Andy Cook scored the only goal in Bradford's 1-0 win at Doncaster. Bradford took a cracking away support there, obviously. Max Amer scored for Gillingham in the 2-1 win over AFC Wimbledon. Becoming a regular suddenly. Angelo Balanta scored for Dagenham in quite a shock 2-1 win at Notts County, that.
Well, Wrexham are now top of the National League, aren't they? And I have a suspicion that they're probably going to stay there, which is a shame for them.
They're not going to look back now, are they?
Yeah, you'd imagine so.
Josh Todd scored. Unfortunately, it was in his own goal. Quinn and South 2-0 home defeat to Dunfermline. Speaking of Joshes, Josh Galloway scored for Annan in that 2-0 win we mentioned when talking about Max Kilsby. And from the land down under, Tom Aldred scored for Brisbane Roar in the 2-1 home win over Perth Glory.
The Tom Aldred one is funny because when you put down the goal scores, it's not a case of I don't trust you, but I always go through and skim through thinking, is there any interesting ones in there or anything? And I just skimmed down, I got to the Australian game, and thought, I wonder if Tom Aldred scored. And that was on Saturday, but they hadn't played at that point, Brisbane Roar. And then obviously the next day, they did play and he scored. So, funny one, that one. There you go.
Just a couple of things in midweek. Andy Cook, again, scoring for fun at the moment. Moved to the top of the League 2 scoring chart as he's got a great solo goal.
Have you seen this goal?
No, I haven't seen it yet, no.
I've put down it's a great solo goal, and it is a good goal. What I would say is the defender doesn't make the greatest effort to shield the ball out for a throw-in. He gets his leg round, wins it, gets into the box. I'm not being funny, but if Andy Cook is pulling away for you for pace, you've maybe got a little bit of a problem there because he should not be doing you for pace. One thing I'll say is what a great run he's on, as you say there, Dan, and it does worry me a little bit with Bradford, thinking they might be coming up the rails a little bit with him there. But at the same time, if I was a Bradford fan, I'd be thinking, please stay fit, because without Cook, they've got nothing in attack. That's the problem.
It was interesting. He was rumoured to be going in January as well, isn't it?
Well, Hughes did dismiss that as nonsense, didn't he? But there you go.
And a penalty save for the former player, Magnus Norman, saved a penalty in Oldham's 3-1 win at Barnet.
Well, that brings it nicely onto one of the other ones, though, doesn't it, actually, as well?
Magnus Norman. Team of the Week news. Magnus Norman was in the National League Team of the Week for the weekend. And former youth keeper Alex Mitchell was the keeper in the National League North Team of the Week. I think he's at Blythe
Spartans, yeah. But Magnus Norman's doing really well, Alden. They love him there, don't they? Their fans are really
he seems to have kicked on, which is good for him. Also, one we missed the other week, Jake Jervis, former loanee, signed for Indian Super League side East Bengal after leaving Finnish side SJK. Now, if you're like me and love random things, there's an English Players Abroad Twitter, which is where I find half his stuff, and it's brilliant. It really is. One that's happened this morning before we recorded, Richie Bennett has signed for Scunthorpe on loan from Barrow until the end of the season, although they have got the 28-day callback. And one from that sneaked in, Gavin Riley has joined Stenhouse Muir on loan until the end of the season from Queen of the South.
There you go. There's one other one, actually, I forgot to put in here, Dan, and that's an update on the man with his massive telly.
Yes, Darren Kelly. He's gone to Hartlepool
to be their new sporting director, which makes you think he wasn't pushed at Newport, was he? He's probably, because I think he's based in Yorkshire, isn't he? Because he was at Scarborough for it. So I imagine he's probably had the opportunity to come up, and he's like, in fact, he was involved in York as well, I think, for a bit. So that might be the link to Askey.
He must be in that area. Yeah.
Yes, he must have links to John Askey. But there you go.
But the removal men will be carting the big telly again.
Indeed,
they'll need a big wagon for that.
Oh, a big one.
I don't know, those big, those, they'll have those vans behind it on the motorway for the unusual load or whatever. There you go.
Wide load.
Yeah, exactly that. Right, that's it then, lads. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks once again to our sponsors, the London branch, for their support this season. We'll be back next week with a regular episode, and we are going to do that special episode fairly soon. I think me and you are collating our notes shortly on that, aren't we, Dan, to put that together? So that should be good. But yeah, that's it. So thanks everyone for listening, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.
Up the Blues.